Hey everyone, welcome to SFDC Stop, and in this video we are going to talk about Lightning record edit form, right? So this form is basically used to edit a record and it is using Lightning data service to get the data for a particular record, okay? As well as for updating the record or creating a new record, it is using Lightning data service as itself. Okay, so when a Lightning record edit form is used, it is used to display or edit or I can say create a Salesforce record. And in case you have specified a record ID, it will update that particular record. Or in case you haven't specified any record ID, it will create a new record. Okay. It has four events which are fired in different cases. First is the error event. So error event is basically fired whenever you are fetching a record or let's say updating a record and there is a server error. So in case of a server error, error event is automatically fired. Okay. In case of a server error, and load event, as we have already learned in the previous video in Lightning record view form, that this event is fired in multiple cases. For example, when the form is loaded, or the record ID is updated, or the field list is updated, right? So the load event is the same as the record view form. Submit event, this event is fired whenever the record is submitted. Okay, so let's say you are making some change in the record and then you're clicking on save, so the record is submitted to be saved in Salesforce, right? So whenever you're clicking on that particular save button, or whenever this form is submitted, this submit event is fired, right? So this is fired when form is submitted. The next event is success event. So success event is fired when your record is saved successfully or updated successfully. So I can say that when a record is created or updated successfully. Okay, so in case there is no server error, everything is done successfully, a success event is fired. Apart from that, the only thing that we need to take care of while using this record edit form is that event and task object are not supported. So this is I'm repeating this again and again in different videos because it is very important. I mean, recently it happened to me as well. I was working on a requirement where I had to create a table of tasks, you can say. Okay, so whenever I had to edit a record, I was thinking of using Lightning record edit form, but I forgot about this particular thing, that event and task object are not supported in record edit form. So I spent almost, you can say, half an hour struggling with the form, and then I got to know about this, and then it came into my mind that this object is not supported. That is why the record edit form is not being displayed. Okay, so just take care of this, and let's jump onto the code to see how our record edit form is created and what we can do with that. Okay, so again, I'm using a lightning card here with the title contact form edit only, which you can see here, because we can only edit a record or create a new record here. We cannot view a record using this, although it's viewable, but it's in edit mode, right? And inside this, I'm using lightning record edit form. So I have specified almost, you can say, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 attributes in this lightning record edit form. The first attribute is a record ID. So in case you are specifying a record ID, it will automatically fetch the values of all the fields that you are using in your record edit form, and it will auto populate them. And in case you haven't specified a record ID, you will be having these fields as blank, and whenever you are filling these fields and clicking on the save button, it will automatically, you can say, create a new record. But in this case, it will update this particular record of which or I can say whose record ID I have displayed over here. Okay, so the next attribute is regarding density. As we have learned in the previous video, that it is managing the display density of the form. So it doesn't update with the display density that the user has selected in case you have specified it as comfy or compact. But by default, the display density is auto, so it will automatically update whenever the user is changing the display density, right? The third attribute is object API name. So again, here I have specified the object name, or I can say the API name of the object using which I'm getting the record of that particular object, right? The fourth attribute is the onload attribute. So onload attribute is basically used to bind a function whenever the onload is fired, or I can say whenever the load event is fired, right? So whenever the load or I can say whenever the record is loaded initially, or whenever there's a change in the record ID, so the record is loaded again. So in all the conditions that we learned about, whenever the load event is fired, so this onload attribute will actually call the handle load function, which is defined in our JavaScript file, and it will move ahead. Okay, so we'll see the JavaScript in a bit. Don't worry about that. Apart from this, I have a own submit attribute. So on submit attribute will call my JavaScript function whenever this form is submitted. So whenever I'm going to click the save button, it will call my this particular function, and I can perform some actions in the handle submit button as well that we'll see in a bit. On success attribute, this is basically used to you can say specify a JavaScript function which will be called whenever the record is saved successfully, or I can say created or updated successfully. Okay. On error attribute, this attribute is used to call a handle error function. So, or I can say any kind of JavaScript function which will be called whenever there is an error in the record that you are going to save. Apart from that, what I have done, I have specified various Lightning input fields inside my record edit form. So whenever you are using a Lightning record edit form, like I have used here, you always need to use Lightning input field. So the benefit of using Lightning input field is that it will automatically render the input field according to the field name. So for example, I have specified the name here like API name of the field like name. So it is automatically rendered all the three fields, which is salutation, first name and last name as well. Okay. So all these fields are automatically rendered by just using the API name, which is name, right? After that, I have specified the API name as mobile phone, so it is rendering my mobile phone field. After that, I have specified the API name as code, so it is rendering my code field. And after that, I have specified the API name as email, or I can say the field name as email. So my email field is automatically rendered. So whenever you are using Lightning Record Edit form, just make sure that you are using Lightning input fields inside that, because these input fields components are required where you can specify the API name and it will automatically render that particular field. Okay. The next thing that we need to have a look at is that I'm using a Lightning messages tag inside Lightning record edit form. So this messages tag is required whenever you want to show the messages, or I can say whenever you want to show the error messages particularly. So let's say I'm not specifying any last name here and I click on save button. So in that case, okay, this is a required field. So let me just populate this and let me just do something else. Let me see if we can do. I think I have a validation rule like this field is required. Let me just try that once. Mm, okay, so this is not activated. Let me just do it quickly here so that we can see the error. So if my mobile phone field is blank, it will show me an error that phone is blank. Okay, or I can say mobile phone is blank. Okay. So this is a custom validation rule that I have created on the contact, and this will lead to a server error because validation rules are checked on the server side as I click on the save button. So let me just keep this as blank and I'm going to click on save. So here you can see I'm getting an error that mobile phone is blank. So to display this particular error or any kind of server side errors, I have used this Lightning messages tag so that I can see what kind of errors are being rendered, or I can say coming whenever I'm saving my record. Okay. So if I just click on this again and click on save, so it will automatically vanish and my record is saved. Okay, so you got to know about this. We discussed about Lightning input fields. Now let's discuss about the two buttons that I'm using over here. So this is a cancel button and this is a submit button. So in case I'm using a button to submit a record edit form, I just need to take care about one thing, that the button should have a type as submit. So I have named this button as save, and on click of this button, I'm calling another function which is named as save record. So we'll see this in a bit. I don't think I have specified a save record function here. Yeah, so let me just remove it because it's not required. Okay. Okay, so as its type is submit, it will automatically submit the record. Okay. And what I'm doing in my cancel button, I'm calling a function which is named as reset form. So on clicking of the cancel button, it will automatically reset my form. For example, let's say I have specified the first name as Gavin123 and then Belson123, and then I am specifying the phone number as something else. Okay, like this. And the code is 125, but I don't want to update any of this. So let's say I'm writing at gavin@gmail.com. Okay, and if I click on cancel button, it will automatically reset my form because I have added some custom code there to reset my form. So that is why on click on this button, I'm calling reset form function, and we'll see in a bit what this reset form is doing. Okay, so now let's have a look at the JavaScript side of it and let's see what kind of things that we are doing in our JavaScript. So what I have done, first of all, I populated my object name, which I'm using over here. This is the object name, right? So first of all, I populated my object name attribute by using the contact object, and this contact object I'm importing from Salesforce schema contact. You can directly specify the contact here as well, or the API name of the object, that will also work. Although this is I can say a good practice. So I'm just using Salesforce schema to import the contact object. Okay. And after that, I have defined all the functions that I have binded over here, like handle load, handle submit, handle success, and handle error. So this is the handle load function, and I'm displaying the event type and event detail for each type of function, right? So for example, when the form is loaded, then the event type will be load. When the form is submitted, event type will be submit. So I'm just displaying everything so that we can see what kind of information we are getting in each type of events, right? So handle load is defined, handle submit is defined, handle success is defined, handle error is defined. So after that reset form is also defined. Let's have a look at the reset form first of all, what it is doing, right? So you have already seen the demo that in case I'm updating something and I'm clicking on the cancel button, it will automatically reset all the fields, right? So how it is doing those? As we know that inside our form we are using lightning input fields, right? So this is input field 1, this is input field 2. All these fields are nothing but lightning input fields. So I have just got a reference to all the input fields by using this dot template dot query selector all, and I'm passing the tag name here, which is nothing but lightning input fields. So all the fields are there and are stored in my you can say fields constant. And after that, I'm looping all these fields and I'm going to call the reset function on each and every field so that that particular field is reset. So in case you want to reset a single field, you can do that as well. But here I'm going to loop on over all the fields that are there in my form and I'm going to reset all of them, right? So this is how my reset form is working. Okay, so let's see how different functions are being called. I'm going to refresh this page once so that we can see the handle load function. Okay, so here you can see that my handle load function is called automatically, and the event.type which is displayed is named as load, and after that I am having some object values, right? Let me show you handle submit as well. So in case I submit this form, let me just clear the console once. And if I submit this form, let me do some changes as well. So 9 6, okay. So in this case, first of all, my submit function is called, which is nothing but handle submit. That is why I'm getting the event.type as submit, and some information is displayed over here. After that, my success function is called. So that is why the event.type, which is being displayed using console log, it is coming as success. And after that, I have some information in my event.detail attribute, and that's it, right? So in case the event is successfully or I can say the form is successfully submitted, my load event is fired again and I'm getting the record again because I have changed the record, right? So once the record is changed, it will fire the load event again and it will load the latest record. Okay, so this is how, I mean, the flow is working. Like when I click on submit button, first of all, submit function is called, and the I can say the event is fired, then the success event is fired, and then the load event is fired. Okay, so let's see what else we can do using this success and load events. First of all, I want to show you that what are these objects that I'm getting, right? So I have already kept these objects in a JSON form over here. So this is the loaded event, and we have already seen this object in the previous tutorial when we were discussing about lightning record view form, that in this particular event detail I'm getting the whole record with all the fields and the values of those fields, right? So it is the same object that we are getting. Let's have a look at some other object now. So in case my record is submitted, I'm getting this particular value in the, I can say, event.detail. Let me show you here as well. So whenever the record is submitted, if I just store this object and I just do json.stringify and then temp1. So this is the thing that I'm getting. It is nothing but the fields with first name, last name, salutation, mobile phone, code, email, etc. etc. So all the fields that I'm submitting, I'm getting those fields as an object, and that object is coming in my event.detail, which is coming when the record is submitted. So here I'm getting that particular object, and that object is having all the fields, which is first name, last name, mobile phone, and everything else that I'm submitting. Okay, and it is coming in this particular format. Similarly, when my record is submitted successfully, and on the success event I am getting the whole record as this, so it is nothing but the whole record with the field values, right? So in case, let's say you are creating a new record and you want to get the id of that particular record, so you can just go to your success event, you can get a reference to event.detail, and from there you can get the record id like event.detail.id, and it will give you the record id. Let me show you here as well. If we just do console.log event.detail detail.id, so it will show me the record id which is just being created. And for the sake of creating a new record, I'm going to just remove this record id attribute for now. Okay, or let's do one thing. Instead of just removing the record id, let me just keep it as blank. Okay. Okay, so here you can see that my record edit form is empty now, and my load event is fired because the record is loaded as empty, although, right? Okay, so this is, let's say, Manish Sharma and 979 something something something, and then we have a code, and then we have an email. Okay, and when I click on this save button, it will automatically create a new record. And as we have specified a record id over here, that is event.detail.id, so we should get the id of the new record displayed in the console. Okay, so I'm going to save this record, and an error occurred, so invalid email address. Okay, so I'm using dot here. Okay, let me save this again. Okay, so the record is created, the success event is fired, and I'm getting the record ID over here, right? So if I just copy this record ID and I paste it somewhere else, let me just paste it here. So it should open my Manish Sharma record. Okay. So here you can see that my contact is created, named as Manish Sharma, and it is having all the information that I put it in my record edit form. So this is a very simple requirement, that whenever you're using record edit form, you have that kind of requirement that you must get the record ID of the record which is being created. So you can use a success event for that, and you will get all the information regarding your record in the success event. So you can just access all the fields as well as the formula fields if you have something like that, or any kind of stuff you can access from regarding the record using the success event. Okay, so this event is fired only when the record is created successfully. Let's have a look at the error event. So I think you already had a view of the error event when it was fired, because I was using two dots over here. So let me just do that again. I'm going to add two dots in my email, or let's say I can remove this as well. Okay, so if I click on save, okay, so I think, yeah, error event is fired, and it is going showing me an error that mobile phone is blank. So sometimes you need to show an error message in a toast instead of using the default error message, right? So as you can see here that our error function is called, or I can say our error event is fired, and it will be having some details as well. Okay, so the details are displayed here. So all the details are coming in an object which is having two options, like message, and then detail, and then output, which is having the errors, and then we are having a lot of errors. Okay, so this is the whole information regarding my error that I'm usually getting. This is the main message that I want to get. In case I want to show a toast instead of lightning messages tag, I can use this message to show in my toast, right? So what can I do? I can access the detail attribute of my error to show that message. Let me go to the JS file, and here I can say that I want to display event.detail.detail whenever I want to, whenever I'm getting an error. Okay, so let me just push it. Okay, so let's refresh this page once, and we'll see how our error message is coming in the detail. Okay, so event.detail is nothing but this whole object, and inside this object in the detail I'll get my error message. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to create a new contact again. First name is, let's say, Richard. Hendrix. Mobile phone is blank. Code is 123. Email is richard@pipepiper.com, or let's say Richard123. Okay. I'm going to save this and I should get an error message. So here you can see this is the error message, mobile phone is blank, and I'm getting an error message here as well, mobile phone is blank. So how I decoded this thing, I just displayed that object in JSON, whatever I'm getting from my error function, or I can say from my error event, and in that particular JSON I can see what kind of data I'm getting, and then I can see which attribute that I need to use. For example, I need to use the detail attribute, so I just use a detail attribute and I display that here. So in case you don't want to show the error message here, you want to show a toast, you can simply use the detail attribute and show a toast using that, right? So this is how, I mean, you can get the information through various events that are automatically being fired whenever your record is created. Okay. Now let's look at one more requirement. Suppose I want to bypass this error message whenever I am creating a contact form. Okay. Well, although this is not a particular use case, I can say, but it may happen that you want to have some default values. So let's say I have a requirement that in case no mobile phone is specified, I want to have a default value for mobile phone is 909090, so that this error won't come. Okay. So how can I do that? I can override the handle submit function for this, and this submit function, or I can say event, is automatically being fired whenever the record is submitted. Okay. So what can I do? Instead of submitting the record by using the default behavior of the event, I can call event.prevent default in my handle submit. So what this will do, it will stop the event, or I can say stop the default behavior of the event. And what is the default behavior? The default behavior is that submit the record. Okay. After that, I got the fields using event.detail.fields. So how I'm getting these fields, if you remember, whenever my record is submitted, I'm getting a JSON like this or an object like this, which is having a fields attribute, and inside that fields attribute, I'm getting all the fields with their values, right? So I got all the fields using event.detail.fields. After that, I'm specifying that fields dot, let's say, mobile phone is equal to nothing but 9090909090. Okay. So this is our default value that we want to push in case no value is entered by the user. Okay. And after that, I'm getting my reference to writing record edit form using this.template.query selector, and I'm submitting that form again, and I'm passing the updated values of the fields into that submit function. So this is a function which is defined inside the markup of Lightning Record Edit form, and we are using the submit function from the parent because this is the parent of Lightning Record Edit form, right? Let me just save this and we'll see this in action. So in case you have a requirement that you want to update the default values of the fields, or you want to have a hidden field of which I mean in which you want to pass the value by yourself, so you can override the submit, or I can say handle submit function, which is called whenever the form is submitted. You can stop the default behavior of submitting the form, and then you can submit that form yourself. Okay. Okay, so this is pushed. Let me just refresh this once again and we'll see it in action. Okay, so let me just create a new record very quickly. This time it's, let's say, Harry Potter, and mobile phone is blank, code is 123, email is harry@potter.com. Okay, so I'm going to save it and I should get my default mobile phone. Okay, so I think I have a validation rule for code as well. Let me just give it as 0101. Okay. Okay, so I guess the record is saved, right? Yeah, so the record is saved and here is my record ID. And if I just go to my Salesforce and I use this record ID, so my Harry Potter record is created. And as you can see here that I'm getting the mobile phone, which is the default value of my mobile. So in my form, I haven't specified any value for my mobile, but here I'm getting the value for my mobile. So this is coming from this particular code that we have written, that in case my mobile phone is not specified, I can override it by the default mobile phone value. So I haven't checked that if this is not empty, although you can add a check that if fields dot mobile phone is empty like this, then only you should override the value. Okay. Yeah, so this is how, I mean, you can use a submit function to specify some kind of default values or any kind of value for a field that you want to specify, and or a field value that you want to hide from the user. Okay. Yeah. So I think this is it for Lightning Record Edit form. Yeah, we have covered everything that we can do using Lightning Record Edit form. And you can find all the code in the Lightning Data Service branch of my GitHub repository. So what you need to do, you just need to navigate to github.com/Rahul Malhotra/Salesforce-LWC-concepts, and you can find the Lightning Data Service branch over here. And you can find all the code used in this tutorial under the Lightning Data Service branch. And apart from this, I think, yeah, there is one more thing that I want to highlight, that in case you are using Lightning Record Edit form and Lightning input fields, just make sure that you are using only base components to wrap the Lightning input fields, right? So for example, in my component, I'm using the base components, which is Lightning layout item, to wrap my Lightning input fields. Okay, you cannot use a custom component according to the Salesforce documentation to wrap the input fields, or I think if even if you do, it may not work properly, right? So it has written over here that you can't nest your Lightning input field in a custom component, but you can nest your Lightning input fields in the base components. For example, Lightning layout. So just make sure that whenever you are creating a record edit form, you are using only the base component to wrap your input fields in order to create a layout. Okay. Yeah. So that's all for this tutorial, everyone. I hope you liked it. Let me know your feedback in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, have a good day. Bye bye.